my topic for tonight is the transformative power of beauty. You will notice that it's my initial photograph is a cave with glowworms. It's a photo I got from the internet, and it's a cave in New Zealand. I don't know where. There's a name, and it's and I was reminded after we went out last night and watched the glowworms. I said, I have to do some research. What is this? What are these things? You know, these glowworms, and so I googled and found these photographs of glowworms, and they're quite amazing. And so I got the scientific information and knew more about it. But after going to that site, you know, there's a grove, there's a clearing and a grove and a wilderness, forest grove, wilderness, and then it's so dark, and then you have the glowworms. So it was really wonderful. And when we were walking back with Michael, I think, and Alan, and we were a bit quiet, and then I was asking myself, what am I feeling now? And then finally I said to Michael, you know, it's like going to church when we went to the forest grove with all the candlelights. And it's interesting because in some places, I work in Macedonia, so we went to this small villages where you have small chapels, or where the villagers would go to mass or to worship, and small, dark, cold. And you light a candle, and right away the icons would suddenly glow, because in the tradition of the artistic tradition, you use gold paint for the halo and some parts of the icon. You light one candle and suddenly all of this will come out. That's why I said it's like going to church, because in fact it was. And the only difference is that it's the cathedral of nature. I was thinking that it was a bit cloudy last night, but I was thinking while on the way out that if I had looked up at the sky, I would have seen the Milky Way if it were a clear evening. We had a glimpse of the moon. And this is how the Milky Way would look in places where there is no light that would intrude into the scene. And I was reminded of what H.P. Blavatsky said, there is nothing profane in the universe. All nature is a consecrated place. And so I've learned to understand nature as something sacred. I did not have that kind of relationship before, but along the way, especially when I became a theosophist, it became clear to me. And so I would resonate with this kind of a statement. Earlier, our group gathered in a clearing, didn't we? And we had a ritual, and it was quite moving. But also there was someone watching us, and it was a big tree. And they told me it's a kauri tree. Kauri tree. And so I was again fascinated. So I googled and I saw it, kauri. Okay. And then, but what came out first is Tane Mahuta. Okay, and it's a giant kauri tree somewhere in the Northland region. Who comes from the Northland region? Oh, there. Okay, so it's there. And then it says that it's about 1,000 years old. And what was fascinating with this particular tree, which I think was beautiful last night, was that it has a story to tell. And this is what I found out. In Maori, Tanek Mahuta means Lord of the Forest. According to the creation myth, Tani is the son of Ranginwi, the sky father, and Papantuanuku, the earth mother. Tani separates his parents from their marital embrace until his father, the sky, is high above the earth. Tani then sets about clothing his mother with vegetation. The birds and the trees of the forest became Tani's children. I'm fascinated by creation mythology because it tells you a particular worldview when, although it's not really scientific, it says a lot. People talked in metaphors before. People talked in images. That's how they related with nature. And it has a lot to tell. And I say that when there's something fascinating, there is something wonderful, and it's beautiful, it has a story to tell. Isn't it? And so I thought that by naming animals, plants, streams, they become alive and vivid, isn't it? You give them a name. Tani, Mahuta, Kauri. You give them a name, and it's like silver threads of a particular web of association of what sleeps quietly in our memory and what can be imagined richly. And they don't tell me the meaning of life. It doesn't happen that way. But they help me realize what it means to feel alive. Isn't it? By naming animals, plants, and trees, I become connected to them by some form of, I call it sympathetic magic. A relationship established that makes it impossible for me to cause harm without harming myself. Perhaps it's beauty that draws me closer to the sunflower, the trees, fireflies. In our country, we have wood swallows. We have beautiful volcanoes. And when I behold the dawn breaking at the rim of the mountain or watch the Milky Way, it unfurls like a banner of bioluminescence. I find a moment of perfection in a world governed by impermanence. And in a way, we are imperfect. The world is imperfect. But for that brief moment, everything seems perfect. It's the kind of, in the mystic, what we talked about a day ago, it's that particular illumination that you have. Very brief, but it is that. And where they are, I think we all choose to take refuge, and oftentimes we heal with them, especially because of the problems that we encountered in the world. I believe that the more clearly we can focus our attention on the wonders and realities of the universe about us, the less taste we shall have for destruction. I quote this from Rachel Carson. Do you remember her? Silent Spring. Okay? Very memorable book, changed a lot of things when first she came out with it. And the beauty in nature is the beauty in us. That's what I learned from her. The beauty in nature is the beauty in us. It serves as our gateway or portal to self-introspection and outside exploration. I say this because I grew up in the rural area before. I was born in the city, but my family moved to the rural areas, and we had lots of space, and by seeing things, it was very important that I get to know them. The wilderness in nature, both in the mountains and the rivers in the forests and seas, have served as a gateway to the inner. The beauty in nature is the beauty in us. This became clear to me when I became a theosophist. I could see beauty externally, but I never realized that what is there is also in here. And so whenever we think of harming what is out there, I also might be harming myself, because as I quoted earlier, the universe is sacred, and I am part of that universe. Oh, by the way, this is a character, calligraphic character in Chinese of beauty. So this one is man, earth, universe, energy. Beauty is that. So everything is joined to, is integrated. Beauty is not one thing. It's not something to admire. It's something that is cosmic in this particular character. It's important that we see things as they are, especially in looking at nature. Why do I say that? If you're very angry, you won't notice a flower. If you're so afraid, you won't notice that your child is beautiful. If you're nervous, like a little bit now, I won't be able to see all your beautiful faces, but I'm getting over it. And so, we have to see things as they are when we are with nature. And then, if we see things as they are, we have to be careful in how we use our words. And I believe that there are no cruel monsoons. Monsoons are the two wind patterns that pass through the Philippines. No heartless typhoons, no matter how strong, no matter how devastating. No merciless earthquakes, no angry volcanoes. Just as there are no immoral forests, no wrong rivers, no jealous mountains, no wicked fishes, no unsuccessful winds. Isn't it? We try to project our emotions on things that we see, even on people. But nature teaches you to see things as they are. And this is very important because we have to accept them as they are, because we have to know the sources of their strength. They are powerful. And we must understand their patterns of behavior. We have to do that. In the Philippines, we are visited by 30 typhoons every year, and about 3 or 4 would be strong ones, and they would hit several parts of the country, of the archipelago. There is an earthquake fault that runs from north to south to north, and on both sides you have the Philippine Trench and the China Sea Trench. The trenches would be where the tectonic plates are moving. And you have between islands, sometimes there are faults. Okay, so I happen to come from an island where there is a big fault. But it's not their fault. I mean, it's there, and we just have to understand how these things work out. You have to be a bit scientific about it, and it's not personal. They're just there. And I think that's very important. By doing so, the natural forces become part of our life, and we prepare for their presence. Prepare for their presence. I mean, if we would take that in a different way, Filipinos would have migrated a long time ago, all of them, and they would not have multiplied to such a big population. Anyway, since we have this kind of relationship with nature, it is important that we understand that this very strong force of nature is also vulnerable. Environmental action as a form of service, in our case, is understood as a moral imperative. Most of our forests are gone. The seas are overfished. Because human beings are caretakers of nature, to have often neglected its duty, those who are aware have to take action. And it's very important because we are all linked to this particular source of life. And we belong to it. We are nature. Each one of us is part of nature. And when we lose respect for nature, we lose respect for life. And then, at a certain point, we realize that the ecological is spiritual. I've joined many groups on environment, and when I became a theosophist, I said, wow, now I understand. Because it was save the trees, save, I don't know, save the eagle, always save thing. And then suddenly when you understand this web of life, which you are part of, then respect of nature becomes very important. Respect for nature is very important, but this interconnection, this interconnectedness, this ecology is spiritual. So for my children, we talk a lot about ecology. When we became theosophists, we talked about ecology and spirituality, because it's easy with that kind of, and it's easier to explain things to children. Now, how do we reclaim what we have lost, if we have? We can become again like children and start naming those who have become nameless in nature to many of us. Without people who can share with us the names of those that inhabit land, seas, our senses and minds cannot detect them. This is something I learned even now when I go to our lodges or the places where we have this seminars or workshops. I would, like I did to Richard and Renee, what's the name of that tree? What's the name of that flower? What's the name of that bird? I grew up in a place where we were taught how to, in a very natural way, normal way, this bird is a fantail. This bird is a sunbird. This bird is an oriole. So it came naturally. It came naturally. And then I realized, especially when I became a theosophist, it was not good enough to be environmentalist. Why? Because I realized that if you don't name these living things, you can't see them. You don't know what you're trying to save. And then I understood something, and then biblically I said, oh, that's why you have to name all the animals, because then you begin to have that kind of relationship, isn't it? And so that's why I say become children again, because for children this is fun. Naming cats, naming, I have a son who would even imitate the sound of the wind or sound of the bird, and he has his way, so that he could identify which one, and because we didn't know the scientific name, etc. And when they become invisible, they do not merit our care or concern. Even if you say you're an environmentalist, but if you cannot detect them, you actually don't care or you're not concerned. The kauri, I don't know the history about the kauri, but you have one big, but if, like me, I can see the kauri, okay, cut it down, we'll do something about that. Okay, so this kind of things we have to be conscious of. And I say become children again, because that's how to relieve that moment when we relate with trees, with streams, volcanoes. We know the volcanoes in our areas. We know the names. We know the history. We know the lakes, but are craters. They're actually craters, but since it collapsed, it became a big lake. And it's very important. Painfully and slowly, it dawned on me that by endangering nature, we also invite disasters on ourselves. And the threat of self-extermination haunts us because we have allowed the hastened extinction of entire species of flora and fauna. This has somehow driven us to reflect on our existence. And we are actually killing what is beautiful. And what happens when we kill what is beautiful? We kill ourselves. Remember, Sat, Chit, Ananda. There is existence, there is consciousness, and there is bliss. And what is bliss? What is beautiful? What is joy? And what is harmonious? And that is our beginning. And we all have that. Ananda, when my child heard that, she was still a small girl. I know what Ananda is. I was when we were new in theosophy. And I said, you know what Ananda is? Yes, I read a book by Madeline L'Engle. Oh, and what is Ananda? Ananda is that force in the universe that holds things together. You mean beauty? Yes, bliss. I said, what's bliss? She said, she knows, but she knows Ananda is beautiful, being so beautiful. And then somehow, you know, this child of mine, and so we understood each other. Okay, and that's why they're comfortable with us as theosophists. They didn't think of us for a minute that we were weird, you know, becoming vegetarian and all that stuff. It was okay. Everything was okay. And it's important because we have to anchor, or we have to find our moorings in terms of the cosmos. Where is this beauty coming from? And it seems that the absolute is beautiful. And we share in that particular celebration. And to admire beauty is a form of thanksgiving, isn't it? Let me quote Radha Burnier. A person who has realized the significance of life cannot act in a destructive manner. He acts spontaneously in a creative, loving manner, which is wisdom in action. So when there is a complete awakening of consciousness, when there is total awareness, it manifests itself as a holy life and loving relationship. If you're aware of beauty, you won't be destructive. It helps because you admire it. In fact, when we say something wrong, or if there is something immoral, we say that it's ugly, not beautiful. In our country, we have words, we have terms. Like for instance, loob. Loob means within. So we have a term for what is inner, and that's loob, inside. And so when we say mababang loob, humble, he is humble within. And we say malakas ang loob, strong within. And then you say mabuting loob, good within. And you can also say magandang loob, he or she has a beautiful inner self. So we have words like that, and so this kind of a quotation is very important to get an affirmation of something that is older than us, and it's that particular culture in our country, where we have words even for what is within. And I find that quite difficult because even in our country we don't say he or she. We are, how do you call it? There is no he or she. It's we don't say brother. It says or sister. We are siblings. So we have a word for it. Almost all our languages. It was the Spanish influence that made them hermanos, hermanas, brothers, sisters. But all the other languages, it's non-gender oriented.
Asexual would be, I suppose. Asexual? No.
Asexual? No, it's not about really sex. It's about gender. It's about recognizing gender, and it's important because sometimes there would be some discussion regarding if coming from a poor family, who goes first to school. Sometimes the discussion is, oh, the boy. No, the girl. And it doesn't matter who is older, you know. And somebody, oh, the girl, she would study and really help us out when they're grown up. The boy, we have to save some money because he'll get into prison and we have to bail him out. so you see this kind of gender stereotypes. You get this kind of gender stereotypes. And but that's important because in brotherhood, for instance, we are not comfortable of universal brotherhood, because when we say brotherhood, then it only about, and so it's not about feminism. It's because of our culture that we don't make a distinction between sister, especially when you talk about So usually when we say solidarity, it's human solidarity, or of being igsuon. Igsuon means children, or igsuon means brother sister. Now, fascinatingly, it's all connected to something that we have been studying for a long time, and which we've been talking about. If our particular mind, our particular attitude towards what is beautiful is actually important in developing our intuition. According to Jinira Jadasa, can you imagine November 1956? There are several ways to make the intuition grow in us. Act with compassion. And then he said, commune with nature. And then commune with beauty. Commune with beauty. And when he talks about beauty, it's not the external beauty. Everything that is beautiful has an inner life. That's what I learned. There is an inner life in everything that's beautiful, in everything that is sacred. Who was it who said? The Greeks had the true, the good, and the beautiful. Sri Aurobindo. Something is missing, Sri Aurobindo said. What's missing? Love. Those three won't work without love. He said, there is no dynamism. It's just true, good, and beautiful. So see, they do all these statues, aesthetics, but there is no spirituality in it. I mean, you know how Aurobindo, and so I was amazed by when he made that claim. But what is missing is love. What is missing is love. You won't understand Ananda and consciousness if there is no love, he said. So the Greeks are a bit, there's something lacking to it. And I realized that it's true. You have to be familiar. You have to experience love. And so intuition, and intuition is that aspect wherein the light of Buddhi penetrates the mind. It awakens the human being to its spiritual state, to a vision of wholeness. Buddhi is the faculty that manifests spiritual intuition or insight, which is far deeper and subtler than the reasoning faculty. It also manifests the voice of conscience. It is also the one that recognizes beauty and is able to tell, as Jeffrey Hudson would say, don't fuss about it. Do not think about right or wrong. The beautiful is neither right or wrong. So, mystics like Saint Anthony of the Desert said, my book, when somebody visited him, he's lived in the desert. He's from Egypt, so he lived in the Sinai Peninsula, Sinai Desert for a long time. And then somebody visited him and said, "Oh, you're a holy man, and yet you don't have sacred books." And so he answered, "My book, O philosopher, is the nature of created things. And anytime I want to read the words of God, the book is before me." Okay. And Bernard of Clairvaux, who was instrumental in the monastic tradition in Christianity, although other things about him are not that really fascinating, because he led the Crusades and but anyway, I would just like to quote him regarding this, to be clear about it. Believers who have experience, you will find about monasticism, you will find much more laboring amongst wood than ever you will amongst books. Wood and stones will teach you more than any master. Of course, this is a way of saying things, but it's important to go back to that source. Hudson said a lot of things about beauty, and even in the Brotherhood of Angels and Men, he said, "Beauty is not born, nor can it die. It is eternal." So what is Ananda in us is eternal. True beauty is ever new, and this is the sign by which you must distinguish between the false and the true. So he goes a stage farther. The true, the good, and then goes with love and beauty. Those who experiences beauty and the truth of the flower cannot damage it, isn't it? When once you appreciate a rose or a sunflower, and that is beautiful, you won't attempt to damage it. You will treat it with kindness and delicate care. This is also true to our lives as a whole. When children are beautiful, please care for them. They are fragile, they are meant to be cared. And it's what signals us to that is that they are beautiful. So much beauty in children. And when we had our first baby, we were taking care of her. And then my wife and I, and then she said, Victor, I think this is a moment of pure joy. So it has that kind of impact on us. And so beautiful is not about aesthetics. It's something really that is there, that is part of the universe. It has an inner life. And you find this in, you don't have to say that, oh, this baby is, but there is something beautiful in babies, children. And so we begin to respect what is beautiful. That transforms us. Beauty transforms us because we begin to respect. And it begins with wonder and beauty. In the process, one may find oneness with it. I also want to be beautiful. I want to admire the sunset, but it's so much significant when I have my loved one beside me. Beauty and love. Respect is allowing a person to chart his or her own destiny without judging them or manipulating them while caring. It is understanding what a person is and appreciating what he or she could be. Now, I'm blurring the lines between nature as external and then us as part of nature. We are one with them. So if you respect a flower, a delicate flower, respect a delicate person. It's so important to do that. Make that kind of integration. Compassion is very important. To participate in the suffering of other human beings with sincere and intense identification. That's what it is. Compassion without condition is the noblest result. We call it altruism. It frees us from self-centeredness and unite us with others. So it frees us from self-centeredness and unite us with others. We were talking earlier and I said, have you read E.F. Schumacher? I mean, Small is Beautiful. Do you remember? Huh? Once a time, he was Schumacher, and Small is Beautiful was very popular. And he had an article, like a very long essay on Buddhist economics. And in Buddhist economics, he talked about why do we work? And he first says, number one, to develop our individual, our own potentials. That is your first duty. Develop your potential. Work. Secondly, he said, so that you'll learn how to work with others. Collaborate, cooperate with them. Why? Because socialization allows you to lose your self-centeredness. And third, produce the goods for the well-being of people. And when I mentioned this once to some of my Filipino friends, they said, what are you talking about? Why we work? Where's the money? And I said, you get compensated for producing the goods for the well-being of people. But you can see, but this is very important in the whole mandala of beauty. But where is beauty, where is compassion, where is respect, and all of them are related to each other. It is the flowering of inner beauty of life in human beings. Compassion, altruism, the inner life blossoms. And that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Although we use beauty for those that are external to us, there is beauty within us because nature is within us. And so, aspects of this inner life can only be evoked, suggested, and hinted. You can't really exaggerate on these things. And so, in poetry, I quote, "Space stretches freely, quietly, full and empty. The waves keep coming and going, almost chanting. Whatever happened, happened. Each one arrives at the right moment." Okay. That's my poem. It comes from OpenSea. And so our appreciation of beauty and channeling our creative energies is our response to imperfections as human being and the impermanence of life. I switch a bit. We appreciate beauty. Now what I'm saying is that each one of us wants to create beauty. The beauty is in us, we appreciate beauty, and then we want to create what is beautiful. And why do we want to do that? It is our response to the imperfections as human being and the impermanence of life. The beauty in the ephemeral. So, when trees suddenly bloom, like in Japan, when you have the cherry blossoms, they celebrate it, and they know it's transient. It will only happen for a few days. But for that particular moment, everybody goes out, celebrates. It's the ephemeral, but at that moment in time, it's beautiful. And it is our response to what is impermanent. Or the art of the moment. What is the art of the moment? Photography. Photography is the art of the moment because at that particular point you can catch something and it doesn't lie. Photos do not lie unless you do a lot of manipulation. You edit the photo even digitally. And so even the beauty in invention, when you invent something. So all of us want to be creatively beautiful, to create something beautiful. Isn't it? So it's in us, it's outside, and also we want also to do something about it. And this is quite important because we have that creative potential. It's in everyone, and according to the Kama Sutra of Vajrayana, there are 64 arts to be studied. From poetry to preparing perfumes, from music to cooking, architecture to gardening. I got this from aesthetics, Introduction to Aesthetics of India. And the one who introduced me to that was our teacher in School of the Wisdom. He taught us about the Gospel of St. John. He's a Jesuit priest, but he knows a lot about this. And so we were talking, he said, okay, here's the book. And I said, wow, I said, so you have so, in the Western tradition, paintings, very selective. What the Indian culture does is it democratizes everything, Anybody can be creative. Anybody can create the beautiful. And in the most routine things like cooking, when you do your best, when you excel, you do the beautiful. And I found this really fascinating again, because it widens my appreciation for other people, for what we have in life. Beauty allows us to experience profoundly our intimacy with nature and life. We like, in fact, when we work on piece of art, when you did your mandala earlier, you were doing something for yourself that is beautiful. It's something that is really in us, creative expression. For some of us, it's poetry. For some of us, it's singing. For some of us, it's painting. For some of us, it's walking to the woods, like Thoreau and some of mystic philosophers who said that walking is the best way to appreciate anything. Walking is beautiful. The creative expression, or our need for beauty, is a deep human need. It's like our need for food. It's like our need for sex. It's like our need to be creative. So don't be surprised if you are artistic or you want to do something nice or beautiful. It is something natural. It is something within us. And then, it also is transformative. When we do these things, we become healed and regenerated. Of course, they say now, it's therapy. But it heals us, you know. When we go into that act of creating, it heals and helps us renew ourselves. That's why I don't use therapy. Take these lines from Mary Oliver, another poet. Sing if you can sing. If not, still be musical. It's this energy with our deeper emotions to discover what we have and something to offer and share. And that's also why it's healing. When we create something, if I write a poem, I'm thinking of somebody to whom I would like to share it. It's not just for me. I mean, did you notice what? If you do something nice and it's not just for you. I will keep this and it's something that you want to do, to share. You want to offer it. And that's something when you are creative. It is, you have readers who would like to review, that you would like to reach. You would like to reach other people in Ottawa or even in Auckland, you know. I would like them to, or the way the Hawke's Bay Lodge came out with their book of poems. And that reached me. And I really appreciate that. And so, beauty heals because also it is something that can be offered and shared. And it feels good when you have something to offer and share. Having said all those things, beauty can be, it's in ordinary life, like cooking and gardening. So if you've been to India, you know Rangoli, or there's another name for it, I forget now. So every morning, the female members of the family would draw this. It's geometric patterns, and they use rice flour usually, and chalk. Now they use chalk, not just rice flour. And they say it's one way, it's a ritual to invite visitors, especially ants and insects, attracted to the rice flour, hoping that prosperity would enter their homes. But it is also a reminder about the harmonious coexistence of beings. There are no strangers. That's also what this means. If you have a rangoli in front of your house, you are welcome. You are welcome. It's like very long time ago, you would hear stories about strangers coming to the village, your village, and then you would offer space for bed. Would you like to sleep here for the night? I will offer you food. And then I was wondering, why this kindness? So it's also about kindness, but there is something very practical about it. The family would like to hear the stories of this stranger who has traveled to so many places. Stay with us for one night and tell us your stories. Rangoli, it's about everybody being welcome. You coexist with them. And that's what they do. Now, if it's in the doorway, like this one, they share doorways with so many neighbors, then what happens is that people walking, and that rangoli will be erased by afternoon or evening. Do they feel bad that they've lost their artwork? No, because everything is impermanent. I can do it again. I will do anything that enchants me in life. And that is my attitude. Nothing is lost. Nothing is lost. Especially in Chennai area, where isn't it? This is, and I was fascinated. That's why what are they doing? And it's beautiful. Every morning, a new one, and there is no, what do you call this? There is no, they don't look into a book to make the designs. It's something that's here, okay? And the children learn it. What I don't know is why the females are the ones doing it. But anyway, I didn't go too much in that. But this is the art of the ordinary. Piero Ferrucci, a psychotherapist, said that the experience of beauty is really transformative. So and he said that the effects on people of the aesthetic experience is, 1, it made them happy. 2, it soothed them when they were distressed. And this is being done now even in hospitals, when they put a nice painting or picture of nature where you are recuperating, you know. 3rd, it serves as an invisible ally during critical phases of your life. Hang on to what is beautiful, not outside, but in you. Don't give it up easily, especially in the most difficult times. It reassures them when they are scared, isn't it? It gives you back your confidence, and it gives you strength when you are weak. I am capable of being creative. I and the world, we can be beautiful. I have something to offer and to share, which is beautiful. And in the act of giving and sharing, that itself is a beautiful act. Have you heard about kintsugi? So kintsugi is something is broken. These ceramics usually. And so instead of throwing it away or putting it aside, this is Japanese. You restore it using gold or silver resin, and you glue it together. This is an art. Why? Because you restore it to a state that gives new character to beauty. It's not what it was before. So what is damaged, you restore to have a new character. It becomes something new. And then it becomes more valuable. Even to the family, it becomes an heirloom. And I think this is something people have gone through trials in life. This is proof that in our creative aspect, it signals us that there is something that also can be expressed, but is also in us. So when I told this to a friend of mine, and explained it, and she said, "Victor, kintsugi is like me, like many of us." And then I said, "Yes, you're right." All of us in one phase of our lives have to be restored, you know, and give new character to beauty. We have to be renewed, and we become more valuable. I mean, this is what happens when you go through those phases. And then it's not just individual. You influence also other things. Beauty can influence other things. And in Bhutan, they perceive the country as a kind of mandala. It's like a mandala. So they call the country Drukyul, the country of the yellow dragon, the kingdom of the yellow dragon. A place where human beings could transform their government, social organization, and human capital to create gross national happiness. Okay? And gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. And so when I had my briefing, because I worked there, I didn't understand what gross national happiness was initially. And so, you learn about it while you're here, you know. But the whole idea is that you can't have, that there is a goal to to a country. And if it's a national goal, it's not about economic progress, it's about happiness. And I was, of course, surprised that it was about happiness. And so I said, okay, it's happiness. And you know what is your duty? What is our duty as government? What? For them to be happy? No, sir, I don't know. To facilitate their enlightenment. Oh, I said, and I was new in Theosophical Society, so I had to look up at enlightenment. And for them, it's to be spiritual, to give equal importance to the practical life. You can't have just material. That's what they're saying, because I think it's a reaction to what was happening to the world, where gross national product is more important. Everything was being measured in terms of the economy. And the knowledge of the self is important for this enlightenment. This was explained to me, but I didn't understand it fully. A web of human relations that transform human beings into a less intrusive and destructive source in the natural and built environment. So, for instance, a tiger kills your horse, our farm horse, and you have no business. Of course, there are no guns, but you can't hurt the tiger. You can't use the dogs against a tiger or use a spear, an arrow, etc. Archery is the national sport. And so I was, what? No, you can't do it. So what do? We list down. Make a report. Horse killed by tiger. We have to reimburse the owner. But don't do anything to the tiger. Okay? So it's that, and I think it has a lot to do with the Buddhist concept, that the sacred beauty, it's all interrelated now, huh? And like we were on a farm, and the potato field, and I was working with extension workers, village, and then the wild pigs came, and then they placed cans so that it would sound off if the wild pigs would enter the area. Dang, 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 dang. It was about midnight, and so, what do we do? I was thinking, in the Philippines we have lots of guns, to get a gun, and he said, no, there are no guns here. No guns? No. Oh, what do? We drive them away. So get the stick, come on. What will happen to the potatoes? Oh, we'll give new seeds, and there will be some kind of a subsidy. But don't harm the wild pigs. And you're not supposed to go mountain climbing in that country, especially if you're a foreigner, because mountains are sacred. You can go on a trek and a pilgrimage, but don't ever think of conquering a mountain. It is greater than you. You can never do that. So it's this kind of, and I found that beautiful. I found that beautiful, their whole concept of, and that's why they say it's like a mandala. They have things in place, and they would explain it to you, and some of the monks would have mandalas that are made out of sand, and after interpreting the mandala, they would erase it. And it's painstaking work to make this mandala. My point is, what you perceive, what you receive as beautiful, what is creative, you can apply it not only to yourself but to other things. Cooking, perfume making, whatever, weaving, because it's about excelling, giving your best to it. And then you can raise it to this kind of level. Of course, all the neighboring countries, including India, would like Bhutan to fail. because it's so out of, for them it's foolish. It's an experiment that will fail in another 5 or 10 years. But I know it won't. Why? Because secretly, European countries also want to be part of it. Because secretly they want it to work. But they will not do it in their own countries. Because people would laugh at them. So, you can raise it to that level, and you can raise it to the level at any stage of your life. Have you heard of Ikigai?
No.
Ikigai. Ikigai is the reason or reasons for which you wake up in the morning. That's what Ikigai. It's in Okinawa, and they found out about Ikigai from the world's longest living women, 100 years old, 90 years old, you know. And it's about a lifelong sense of purpose. And those researchers said, this is beautiful. Why? Because by having Ikigai, a reason for waking up in the morning, that primes each one of them, each day, to accomplish activities without making unnecessary demands on the world. Like what? Centenarians teach karate. Guide the village spiritually, because the older you get, you have more experience, you're an elder. And usually that's how it is, even in our culture. And pass down, and you can pass down to children through storytelling, by teaching them how to cook, how to weave, which they deem wise and beautiful to children. This purpose is beautiful, according to the researchers. It's not just a diet, because they usually eat plant-based diet, but this whole purpose, this Ikigai. Why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you wake up? Why do we wake up in the morning? And so they said, this is what I do. At 90 years old, I will do this, do this. And I have a duty to do that. And I find beauty and I find fulfillment in doing that. So every now and then I think it's good to ask ourselves, what is my Ikigai? So it's a purpose, it's a lifetime purpose that we acquire. And so beauty, if it comes from a source, it's in us, it's part of creation or the manifested energy. If it can be created, it is a spiritual heritage. Beauty is a spiritual heritage. The wonderful and the beautiful do not bestow their gifts merely for an hour a day or a day. They belong to our spiritual heritage. They will continue to be a source of nourishment, healing, and strength for the rest of our lives, as long as we do not forget who we are. Divine. That's Joy Mills. Ajar. Walking back to lead bitter chambers after the School of the Wisdom with one of the students. Sorry, I would like to share with you a poem by Octavio Paz to wind up the presentation. And this was introduced to me by Dolores Gego of, I said, hey Victor, because he found I wrote a poem in the Blavatsky bungalow using this old typewriter, and I thought, am I doing this really? And I said, you're interested in poetry? Yeah, look at this one. This is one of my favorites. And so it's a favorite of Dolores, and it is Wind, Water, Stone. The water bores through the stone. The wind disperses the water. The stone stops the wind. Water, wind, stone. The wind carves the stone. The stone becomes a cup for water. The water runs off and is wind. Stone, wind, water. The wind sings while turning. The water murmurs as it goes. The motionless stone is quiet. Wind, water, stone. One is the other, but is neither. Among their empty names, they pass and vanish. Water, stone, wind. Thank you and good evening.